Annyeonghaseyo, this is meowmurai. Let's continue our game of Despera Drops running on Nintendo Switch 2.
真実を見つけに行くよ。
来るの遅いよ。
これで問題ありませんか?
Eventually, we arrived at the abandoned rundown lodge without so much as a sprained ankle.
雲行きが怪しくなってきたな。振り出す前にチェックインできて助かったよ。
雨が降りそうな匂いだね。
とにかく中に入ろう。
When we entered the lodge, Gib ignited a lantern with practiced ease.
全員いるな。
Oh, nice place, huh? With the assistance of the light, I looked around and nodded. We hadn't lost anyone in the dark.
念のため奥に誰もいないか確認してくる。君たちは待っていてくれ。
With the lantern in hand, Gib walked off alone. His back was slowly swallowed up by the shadows. I chewed my lip nervously until I noticed someone by my side.
Oi.
Hi.
His voice sounded somewhat sullen, and I whipped my head up. Ash looked down at me, his eyebrows furrowed.
みんなビビるなよ。ただ、礼が言いたかっただけだ。一人だってのに、俺を助けに来てくれて。ありがとな。
That's what friends do. I should thank you. I'm sorry for being presumptuous.
現状を記録するぞ。
これでいいかな。
I think those are kind of weird translations. I should thank you.
そんな、私こそアッシュさんに助けられました。お礼を言うのは私の方です。
If Ash hadn't helped me out back with Rebecca, I'd have been arrested for sure. But he'd put himself on the line to rescue me. That was why I was here right now.
あれは俺がヘマしただけだ。それに普通の人間ならあそこで俺を見捨てるだろう。正直俺だって諦めてた。誰も助けに来るはずないって思ってたのに。お前は来てくれた。だから嬉しかったんだよ。俺のことを考えてくれる奴がいるんだって知ってさ。
He smiled sheepishly. I could tell from the way he couldn't meet my eyes. He was truly, truly happy. My heart swelled and I tried to return a smile of my own, but I failed.
あれ
Maybe because I'd finally relaxed, my vision blurred and I saw double. I heard something like waves while the sounds around me faded and I lost my balance. My knees grew weak and my vision flickered. I was fainting. By the time I realized that, I was already so out of it that I didn't know what I could reach out to so I wouldn't fall. I had to hold on to something, but I was so disoriented I couldn't even tell up from down. I could make out their flustered voices, but I was unable to work up a response, and the next moment my consciousness cut out. My head was burning up. My body was heavy. I couldn't speak. In my dreams, I was forced to watch everything that had happened over and over and over again.
さっきのやりとりでよくわかっただろう。平和ボケした殺人犯と一緒にいたらこっちが破滅する。俺はここらでおさらばさせてもらうよ。
Oh, are we having a review chapter? What if I'd separated from them then?
明日の正午、ルオーモ広場で待ってるわ。いい返事を期待しているわよ。
It's like the beginning of every One Piece episode. Let me tell you what just happened. What if I'd gone to the meeting place back then? Regret, guilt, shame, transient like sea foam, surfaced in waves before fading away. I tumbled in and out of awareness, never able to grip reality for very long. Where in the world was I right now? Chapter 8 Confession.
だからどう考えても足手まといだろ。
Hamiel's voice, excruciatingly loud and clear, cut through my blurry consciousness. I blinked my heavy eyelids. Everyone was fighting, shouting, and pointing fingers at each other.
なんでそんなこと言うんだよ。これまで一緒に逃げてきただろ。
だが正直これ以上は面倒見きれない。こいつのことは置いていくべきだ。お前もそう思うだろう、アッシュ。
知らねえよ。俺に聞くな。
連れてくって言ってよ、アッシュ君の白状者。お姉ちゃんに助けてもらったのに。
せえな。俺は助けろとは言ってないだろ。
だがこんなところに置いていって彼女はどうなる？せめて行動を別にするとしても安全な場所に。
別に知らない女が一人、俺はどうなろうと構わないがな。
何？
それはさすがにひどくないですか？
家を爆破するよりはまだまともなこと言ってると思うが、だいたいこいつの方がもう限界だろ。
でもサリーお姉ちゃんと一緒じゃなきゃやだよ。
Yeah, it's weird that that he hates her so much.
限界なのは僕も認めますが、こんな場所に置いていくのだけは反対です。何者かに狙われているわけですし、せめて安全な場所に。
安全な場所？この世界のどこにあるって言うんだ。
Of course, since he's a dude, that just means that he really likes her and doesn't know how to express himself. A heavy silence followed Hamiel's retort. Safety was no longer anywhere to be found in this world. I could tell that it was their mutual opinion.
でも僕らは仲間じゃないですか。
何度言わせるんだ。俺らは仲間じゃない。たまたま目的が同じだけだ。警察から逃げるっていう目的がな。
Hamiel forgets that he needs me in order to find out why people are chasing after him.
なんでそんなことを言うんですか？
国籍も罪状も違う。友人でもない相手をどうやって仲間だと思えばいいって言うんだ。
ひどい。あんなに一緒に逃げてきたのに。
こいつはどうせいざという時に見捨てるつもりで一緒にいたんだろ。元から仲間じゃねえよ。
珍しく突っかかってくるじゃないか。警察署に置き去りにされかけたのを根に持ってるのか？とにかく利害が一致しなきゃ一緒にいる意味はない。そうだろ。
それはそうですが、でもほら、同じローマ人を祖先に持つ仲間じゃないですか。
なら、そこにいる日本人は違うな。
とにかく我々は愛の地球戦隊としてですね。
Oh, come on. We need a better name than that.
だからその仲間面やめろってのがわからないのか。俺はつるむのはもうごめんだ。
I mean, he's definitely going to be caught without us. he'll be the first one to be to be captured.
なら勝手に出てけばいいじゃねえか。
ハニー君のバカ。サリーがいなきゃスマホも使えるようにできなかったくせに。
そうだよ。僕がいなきゃ鍵開けすらできないじゃん。
No, I don't think Hamiel doesn't see Mika as a equal because he's Japanese. I think he doesn't see her as an equal because he's a jackass.
あの時は助かった。でももう十分だ。
でも
仲間かどうかはともかく、私たちと逃亡を続けている方が彼女にとって負担も大きいかもしれないな。そろそろ潮時か。
I mean, I'm just tired. One time I'm tired. Truthfully, even I was painfully aware that it was time to move on. Even if I continued fleeing with the others, it was clear that I would only get in their way. No, I've always been a hindrance for them. Perhaps the right choice was to turn myself in, after all. Just like Rebecca had suggested, I commanded my body to move. Forcing my aching upper body to sit up against its protests, my vision shook again.
お姉ちゃん、目が覚めたの？
大丈夫か？
I shuddered as I sat up. Gib brushed over and supported my back with his hand.
ありがとうございます。
水を飲むといい。
Gib handed over a plastic bottle of water. After I drank some, I did feel just a little bit better. However, my mind was still hazy and my body felt like lead.
お姉ちゃん、大丈夫？うん、ありがとう、サリー。
タバコを吸ってくる。
He's just mad because we didn't buy him any wine. He's already full of wine as it is. Hamiel and Ash both sent a glance in my direction before walking out of the lodge after each other. Since I was the previous topic of debate, everyone seemed awkward as they looked away from me or paced around the room.
食事。そうです。食事にしましょう。
そうだな。今ある食材を7人分に分けるぞ。
それなら私が。ダメだよ、お姉ちゃんは寝てて。
I tried to stand up, but Sally made me lie back down. As I lay on the ground, everyone else began lining up our canned food and splitting crackers with fumbling hands. I watched them through my peripheral vision as I stared up at the ceiling. Spiderwebs were networked all over the ceiling. The room was sorely dilapidated, dust everywhere. My back was stiff and sore from lying on the hard ground. I could feel that I'd become more tough compared to the beginning. I was able to hop around less desirable places like this one without batting an eye. I wasn't naive enough to assume that things would work out as I just kept running. I'd only postponed my final decision. Gibbs' voice played in my head. I was at the end of my rope. There was also Rebecca's voice saying that I should turn myself in. Thinking that maybe I should contact Rebecca, I took out my phone and saw that I'd received a flurry of texts from the very same person on my mind. They were long texts. She began with concern and explained that she hadn't tipped Europool. She said she understood if I suspected her and apologized. Next, she wrote that I should accept a plea bargain with Europool. A plea bargain? I scrolled down. The terms of Europool's offer were in her next paragraph. Let's see. Europol promises that if you accept, they won't treat you unjustly. If you're innocent, they'll do everything they can to prove it. I believe you can trust them. There's one condition. You have to reveal the location of the others. Oh, well. I'm not likely to do that. As long as you do that, they'll guarantee your safety. Not a bad offer, right? That's a pretty bad offer, actually. To sum it up, if I threw everyone else under the bus, they would guarantee my safety, which is not really a guarantee. No way we can trust these guys.
どうかしましたか？
いえ、なんでもないです。
I shoved my phone in my pocket so no one would see my screen, but even with my cell out of sight, the text wouldn't leave my mind. According to Rebecca, Europol changed their course of investigation because they deemed it was very likely I'd been framed in some way. And so they wanted my cooperation to confirm the facts and aid with the arrest of the other 6, who were truly criminals. That was their plan. The problem, there's forces more powerful than Europol. So we really can't trust them. I mean, they're not going to be capable of protecting us. Going to have the damn butler and the psychopath after us. Naturally, they would guarantee my safety and detain everyone in accordance with the law. They wouldn't treat us unjustly, or so she'd written. However, the condition had to be giving everyone else up.
これが君の分だ。食べられるか？
Canned soup and crackers were offered to me. I made a move to accept them when I realized something with a start. I'm not wearing my gloves. Uh-oh. Someone must have taken them off out of consideration while I had been knocked out. Oh, that's why I knew what everybody was thinking. I'd reach out my hand to take the soup can from Gib before I realized, and my hand made contact with his. Uh-oh. The moment our hands touched, Gib's emotions flowed into me. I froze, mortified that I saw his mind without permission. Usually Gib wore gloves of his own, but he'd taken them off for our meal. I saw his concern and worry about my health. There was also something akin to despondency. His heart was saying, I can't take her any further. Yeah, that's the normal thing to think in his shoes.
どうした？
ごめんなさい。やっぱり足手まといになってますね。
Yeah, I mean, eventually she was going to have to use her powers. It took like a good majority of this game has been with her without using powers.
そうだな。
I was glad that Gib didn't deny it. It would have been more painful if he tried to be overly considerate, treating me like a fragile object. His response was brutally honest, and like he was treating me like an equal. I was grateful.
自分が置かれている状況を客観的に見れているのなら、それでいい。
はい。ここでみんなに置いていかれても文句は言えません。覚悟しています。
勘違いしてもらっては困る。足手まといだからという理由で見捨てるなら、もうとっくにそうしていた。
After saying that, Gib's expression softened.
とにかく、今は少しでも食べて、しっかりと体を休めるんだ。
Gib offered the can of soup a second time. My hand came close to touching his again, and I reflexively pulled away.
どうした？
なんでもありません。ありがとうございます。
I finally took it, thinking that I should at least try to eat, but I didn't have a semblance of an appetite. Being without my gloves was extremely unsettling.
誰か私のグローブを知りませんか？
お前が倒れた時に泥で汚れたから、外してあの辺に置いておいた。
Ash pointed to one corner of the room. My gloves, wet and muddy, were tossed there haphazardly.
どの道あのままじゃ使えねえ。おとなしくスープを飲め。
はい。
True, I probably couldn't wear them in that state, comfortably anyway. For now, I should just do as he said. I looked at the others. We didn't have any spoons, so they opened their cans and drank from them directly.
さすがに飲みづらいですね。気をつけないと唇を切ってしまいそうです。
サリー、お姉ちゃんもご飯食べたいな。
無茶言うなよ。
Though I didn't have an appetite, my stamina would only diminish if I didn't eat. Telling myself that, I forced crackers and soup down my throat. I hadn't had a cold meal in a long time, which made me feel even more miserable. They want me to cooperate with arresting everyone. I could never do that. All of them were fully fledged criminals, evidenced by the data in Rebecca's documents. They wouldn't avoid a guilty verdict if they were caught. Even if Europol said they would treat everyone justly, they were going to end up in prison for sure. I didn't want that to happen. Wait, huh? Criminals served time to repent for their sins. That was how society worked. Deviating from that practice was intolerable. So why did it bother me this much? Reporting them was the ethically right thing to do. If this was the first day I'd fled from the van, I'd have accepted these terms without a second thought. It wasn't the same now that I knew their kindness. Ash had risked himself to protect me. Gib had wavered about using his rifle because he didn't want to shoot me. Ram had tried to rescue an orphanage. Kamu had been anxious that I might lose myself to this life, while Sally had insisted that she didn't want to abandon me. Hamiel. Though Hamiel always made cutting comments, he would analyze the situation accurately, and he wasn't someone who'd hurt us without qualms. Despite being a con artist, not once had he betrayed us. Well, logically I knew what I should do, but that didn't mean I could accept that choice on an emotional level. Everyone worked at their canned soup, complaining it was cold or unappetizing. When I thought that these days with them were approaching their end, a peculiar sense of bitterness filled my mouth. France, July 24th, 2028, Colmar, Monday, 23:31, outside the lodge. After I finished my meal, I went outside to look for Hamiel. Apparently, he was just outside the door. Alone, he stared up at the sky as he smoked. I hesitated to break his silence to talk to him. He lifted a single eyebrow, just like he always did when he wielded his sarcasm.
せっかく出てきたなら夜空でも見たらいいじゃねえか。ま、曇ってて星は見えないけどな。
As if giving me permission to come to his side, he shifted sideways. Though still reluctant, I walked up next to him. Oh, I'm without my gloves, too. Oh, no. Just like he said, I couldn't see the starry sky. Above us, only the dark canvas of twilight, looking as if someone had spilled ink in the heavens. I was completely clueless about how to start the conversation with him right now. Hamiel cleared his throat softly. He took a step forward and faced me. He leaned against the tree for an air of nonchalance.
さっきの聞いてたんだろ。
はい。ごめんなさい。
I don't know why I'm... Oh, well, it's a Japanese thing to say they're sorry all the time, but she doesn't have anything to say sorry for. There were other things I wanted to say, yet an apology was the only phrase to make it out of my mouth. I had the right to be sick of he had the right to be sick of looking after me. It was only fair.
どこから聞いてたんだ。
足手まといたって話してたところから。
くそ、結構聞かれてたじゃねえか。
Hamiel sighed, sounding frustrated. He stubbed out his cigarette with a portable ashtray.
言い訳を言うつもりはないさ。全部が嘘だったわけじゃないし、そもそも嘘つきの俺が何を言っても信じられないだろうしな。だが、お前に聞かせる内容じゃなかった。そこは謝る。悪かった。
He sounded a little at a loss, whispering those words. It was overall too awkward to seem like another act.
今謝ったんですか？
おい、なんだその意外そうな顔は。俺のことなんだと思ってるんだよ。
すみません。なんだか意外で。だって、ハミエルさんは詐欺師ですから。
Very true.
なんだ。よくわかってるじゃないか。
でも、ここぞという時には嘘をつかない、信用できる詐欺師だと思ってたんです。
詐欺師が信用できるようになったら商売上がったりだな。
Hamiel shrugged. Even his joke seemed made out of consideration for me, and I looked down at my hands.
だから、嘘でも謝らないでください。ハミエルさんが言ったことは正しいですから。
Hamiel had always made the right judgments, even if it ended up hurting someone. He never spoke in error.
OK。せいぜい信用できない男で言い続けるさ。
Having regained his usual energy, he gave me a very contrived wink.
とにかくだ。言い方は悪かったと思ってるよ。だから、居心地悪い宿には違いないが、今晩はゆっくり休め。寝てる間に置いていくような真似はしないって約束するさ。
After making that statement ineloquently, Hamiel gave me a hug that only lasted a second before walking back into the lodge. In Europe, hugs were a normal kind of greeting, but it was something he'd never ever done before. I know, I hate stranger hugs. It's like, get away from me. Perhaps he felt that he'd gone too far and was remorseful in his own way. He honestly didn't have to. All his arguments were sound. He was the one who viewed things most realistically and had realized this was as far as I could push myself. That was all. Once again, I looked up at the sky. Not even a single star to wish on. After Hamiel ate his portion of canned delight, we decided to take turns sleeping.
こんなボロい小屋じゃサリーのお洋服汚れちゃう。
俺の方が嘆かわしいよ。 このスーツいくらしたと思ってるんだ。
Even as we grumbled, we each stretched ourselves out on the hard floor. The only exception was Gib, who maintained his rifle while vigilantly keeping watch through the window.
仮眠は交代でだ。順番に起きてもらうぞ。
またリーダー気取りかよ。
狙われている以上仕方ないだろ
There were a lot of people out to catch us, police with code names, or both. Gib's grimness was a statement in itself. We couldn't let our guards down. Rifle cradled in his arms, suddenly Gib shifted his gaze to me.
う。事実確認をしておきたいのだが、妙な連中に襲われる理由に思い当たることはあるか。
マフィアか、それとも政治家か。どちらにせよ、犯罪のプロが絡んでるわ。きっとあなたを狙っている相手は、よほどの大物よ。覚悟して。
There were people that even Rebecca couldn't find anything on. I didn't recognize them at all, so of course I was clueless to their motivations.
わかりません。どうして狙われるのか。
Even if my presence at the murder scene was the reason, I'd already told them that I hadn't seen anything. Did they doubt that?
私を口封じに殺すならわかるんです。殺人現場を見てしまったから。
I know, it's a very... She's just a very innocent traveler. And then she just got, was in the wrong place at the wrong time. With superpowers.
殺人現場を見ただと。
はい。ローマのレストランで知らない人の殺人現場に居合わせてしまったんです。それで参考人だって警察に連れて行かれて。
そこで殺人の罪をかぶせられたってわけか。
はい。
でも妙ですね。殺人の罪をかぶせるだけなら口封じをすればいいはずですが。
だが実際は捕らえるつもりで追ってきているというわけか。確かに妙だな。
でも反抗さえしなきゃあいつら僕らも連れてくって言ってたよね。
ああ、護送車が襲撃されなきゃっつってたしな。
でもなんで？サリー、あんな人知らないよ。
替えが利くというからには我々のパーソナリティに興味はないのだろう。ただの技術目当てなどではないか。
まあ世紀の大怪盗である僕のテクニックに惚れ込んで狙いたくなる気持ちもわかるけどさ。
でもそうなるとこいつだけ替えの利かない能力を持ってるってことになるな。
何か特殊技能でも持っているのか。
Oh, I can't tell them what I can do. I wasn't skilled at stealing, nor was I a master of deception. But there was one power I did have. Surely it can't be. The possibility emerged in my mind, and I gazed down at my bare hands. Ungloved, these hands had glimpsed Gibbs' thoughts just a while ago. It was a power that allowed me to see what should be unseen. It was a power that would show me even the animosity of a murderer. Yeah, because we know who was the actual murderer.
そうですか。やはりあなたは彼女の力を。
Yeah, they know her power is to make food that's not Japanese food. When I touched the murderer's hand, that man had sounded like he expected my reaction, as if he'd noticed me getting a read on his emotions. When Mr. Hartfield had known about my powers too. Before, I was certain that only my dead mother knew. But two others had known my deeper secret. What if this was our enemy's aim?
思い当たることでもあるのか。
When I fell silent, Ash gave me a sharp glare. Even if this power was the reason, I couldn't afford to tell them. My words my mom had said to me when I was a child restrained me. You mustn't tell anyone. Besides, who would even believe me? Someone who could see emotions and memories through touch? This was reality, not fiction. Without warning, Ram, who'd been lying down, jumped to his feet.
誰かが近づいてくる。
警察か。
それはわかんないけど、ピザの配達じゃないことは確かだよ。
That was when I even heard the whir of a helicopter above us.
ヘリまで出してきたか。
見つかったってこと？
わかりませんが、普通ならこんな深夜に山奥でヘリが飛ぶなんてないような。
おい、小屋を出た方がいいんじゃねえか。
ああ、ここにいたら捕まる。急いで逃げるぞ。
We grabbed our belongings and rushed out of the lodge. Heavy rain started pouring down.
くそ、こんな時に。
The rain caused poor visibility, and there was no longer moonlight to guide us. Only the helicopter searchlight floated in the sky. We were finished if that discovered us. Just as I was about to duck underneath the trees, I heard something slicing through the air. A knife grazed my hair before piercing the lodge wall behind me. Someone was attacking us, but it was so dark that I couldn't make out who it was. Well, somebody's attacking us with a knife. There's really only two choices.
アクロライトだけは殺すな。生き捕りにしろ。
警察じゃないことは分かった。
おいおい、俺らはどうなってもいいってか？
殺す気か。逃げろ。走れ。
There was no time to hesitate. Everyone split and ran into the forest. The muddy ground had grown slippery and difficult to sprint across. I tripped again and again, desperate to get away. I didn't want them to catch me, but then, if I was their goal, everyone else would be safe once I was caught. Should I be a decoy, or should I escape? In a split second, countless options appeared in my mind.
状況を記録するのか？
これで問題ないか。
Well, I definitely don't want to be captured, so I don't want to act as a decoy. Keep running down the trail, hide behind a tree, return to the lodge, go down the mountain, defend someone in danger. Defend someone in danger? Why would I return to the lodge, though? I wouldn't even know if I thought I could get back there. I wish I'd go down the mountain first. I had to run somewhere, anywhere. Would I be able to shake them off if I went down the mountain and back to the highway? I tried to sprint down the slope, but rain had turned the once stable ground to a mudslide. I lost my footing. I slipped until I slammed my foot against a tree root, toppled over and landed hard on my shoulder. Oh, okay. Well, this clearly was the wrong thing to do. The stinging pain knocked the breath out of my lungs. The incessant pouring rain slapped my cheeks. After I finally recovered from the impact of my fall, I gingerly sat up. Despite my spectacular tumble, I didn't see any concerning cuts or grazes. I couldn't waste time. I had to start running again before my pursuers found me. But as I tried to climb to my feet, acute pain stabbed into my foot and I toppled forward. My hands hit the ground first, propping me up. Ow! Maybe I sprained my ankle. My foot throbbed and ached. I couldn't move it. Sitting down hard on my bottom, I grimaced. Then I heard the sound of something sloshing in the mud.
大丈夫ですか？
Oh, I ran into Camus. The one who came down the steep slope turned out to be Camus. He held onto a tree branch that stuck out and was cautiously making his way down to me. Eventually, he reached my side and smiled.
崖に落ちる姿が見えたので、追ってきたんです。よかった。無事で。怪我はないですか？
Oh, are all those choices related to who I might run into? Not wanting to drag him down more in this emergency, I nodded and desperately tried to stand up. But the piercing pain stabbing my ankle didn't let my body move as it pleased.
捻挫ですか？見せてください。
Seeing that I couldn't stand, Camus crouched down and began examining my foot. He fell into quiet contemplation, a grave look on his face. A moment later, he quickly turned around so his back was facing me.
僕に任せてください。僕が背負って運びますから、背中に乗ってください。
でも
大丈夫です。僕は愛の地球戦士。困った人がいたら助けるのが正義ですから。
Kamu grasped my hand and tried to help move me onto his back. Our fingers touched. My breathing hitched. Intense worry crashed down around me like an avalanche, swallowing me whole. My safety was the only thing on his mind. My heart began to ache at his unadulterated concern. I didn't want to put him in more danger. But even if I told him to leave me behind, he'd probably refuse. It was this knowledge that led me to climb onto his back and cling onto his shoulders.
では行きますよ。雨宿りできる場所を探しましょう。このままでは風邪をひいてしまいますから。
Yeah, he's probably the one I would least think would keep me safe. But here we are. Camel rose to his feet and took one steady step after another. When I buried my face in his back, a faint warmth spread to my cheeks. Tears prickled my eyes at the soft texture of his clothes. How long had it been since I'd ridden on someone's back? I couldn't remember. This was the first time that being carried like this felt so reassuring. I almost wanted to stay here forever. Perhaps the feeling was emphasized because I felt helpless, like I didn't belong anywhere, because it was clear that I was the target of those agents. If they were after my power, I likely could never fully be free of them, even if I fled. The fact that I was irreplaceable weighed heavily on me. Why did I have to be born with such an accursed power? I lost count of how many times I wished I never had it. Tonight, that sentiment was stronger than ever. It took everything out of me to fight back my tears. I mentioned Mika's pretty light. France, July 25th, 2028, Colmar, Tuesday, 12:56 a.m. We continued going down the slope where I'd slipped and eventually came across a cave.
おお、ここは雨宿りするのにおあつらえ向きの場所ですね。
Kamu marched into the cave with a curious glint in his eyes.
ここは自然の侵食でできた洞窟のようです
Oh,
が、
hey, Metal Wolf.
もしかすると古代遺跡の入り口なのかも。実に興味深いですね。
I mean, the way they draw Kamu seems like he's pretty built. He doesn't seem like a scrawny nerd, you know. Kamu had taken a liking to the cave and was absorbed in observing it like an archaeologist. It was like he'd forgotten that I was on his back as he wandered and muttered to himself.
やはり愛の地球戦士の隠れ家を作るなら、こういった洞窟の奥の秘密基地がいいかもしれませんね。となると入り口は、
カミュさん、それよりそろそろ降ろしてもらって大丈夫です。
あ、すみません。ついなんか馴染んでしまって。
Finally, recalling my presence, Kamu slowly lowered me onto the ground. Then he checked over my foot once again.
少し腫れてしまってますね。痛みますか？
触ると少し。でも、だいぶ痛みが引いてきたので、明日には歩けるようになってると思います。
それは良かったです。
A soft smile of relief eased the tension on his features. But then, saying that it was better to be safe than sorry, he moistened a handkerchief and wrapped my ankle to calm the swelling.
雨も止みそうにないですし、今晩はここで過ごすことになりそうですね。
I wouldn't call the lodge earlier cozy at all, but spending a night in a cave made me feel even more like a hunted fugitive. Negative thoughts plagued me again, whispering that this wouldn't have happened if I weren't here. I didn't know who exactly had attacked us today, but I clearly heard the order to capture Acolyte, me. They'd come seeking me due to my powers, just like I feared. Otherwise, they wouldn't have referred to me with a code name. It was clear. With me around, none of the others could escape from my enemy's tenacious pursuit.
どうしましたか？やっぱり痛みますか？
Kamu peered into my face nervously. He was worried about me even in a time like this. The tears I'd been holding back for so long threatened to spill. This was the man who'd been angry at me for my meaningless self-sacrifice. He'd even said that he couldn't think of me as a comrade. But when it truly mattered, he stayed by my side and cared about me. The dam broke and I wept.
どうしたんですか？
ごめんなさい、カミュさん。こんなことに巻き込んでしまって。
いや、巻き込まれているのはあなたもでは。
でも私にこんな力がなければきっと今晩も襲われませんでした。
Uh-oh, I let it slip. I have a power. I quietly touched my own hand as I spoke. Kamu set his face into a solemn expression.
狙われる理由が分かったんですね。
He looked at me without a hint of jest or teasing. I looked back and nodded. I owed it to him to tell him the truth. All of them were forced into this position because of me. Would he treat me with contempt? Would he be spooked by my power? My mouth was dry from apprehension. Still, I couldn't tolerate running away. I slowly spoke up.
はい、実は私には手で触れると人の感情や思い浮かべた記憶を読み取る力が生まれつきあるんです。
I proceeded to tell him my story in bits and pieces. Since my earliest memories, I'd possessed this power. To hide it, I'd worn gloves all my life. Then, I'd been present at a murder scene in Rome and ended up reading the motions of the real murderer. Finally, I told him that likely my power was the reason someone out there was targeting me. Kamu's jaw had dropped early on, and he never closed it. When I was done, his eyes lit up, and he held my shoulders firmly. Oh, of course, this would be awesome to him.
つまりそれはサイコメトリというやつですか？
はい、多分そうですが。
I guess of all the characters, he would be the one who'd be like, "Wow, that's awesome."
まさしくジャパンコミックヒーロー。いや、ヒロインです。
Huh?
驚きました。そんな人がまだ残っていたとは。やはり日本は未知と神秘の国。つまりミカは本物の日本のミコなんですね。
Okay, I am glad we ended up with him then. Although we could go back and make the other choices. I mean, this is certainly the funniest choice.
もしや怪獣に呼びかけることもできるのでは？あの映画のように。
Kamu grasped my hand and shook it up and down enthusiastically. I just told him that I could read thoughts and emotions, but he didn't display a shred of hesitation. From my fingertips, I could feel his delight and joy. His words and his feelings matched. I'd never experienced this before, and I couldn't fight a smile. I was sure that it was also the very first time I'd ever smiled after reading someone else's emotions.
なんで笑っているのです？
I just somehow feel happy because you look happy. I just feel so relieved. Well, that's probably like the real
少し
honest
休憩
choice,
しましょうか。
これで問題ないか？
Actually, I better... Well, here, we'll leave it as it is. I just feel so relieved.
なんだか安心してしまって。
安心？何か心配事があったのですか？
Kamu gazed at me, confused.
だってこの力のことを話したら神さんに気味悪がられると思ってましたから。
まさかこんな素晴らしい秘密を打ち明けられたのですよ。僕も最高に嬉しいに決まってるじゃありませんか。
The emotions that flowed into my fingertips were the exact same as the words that flowed into my ears.
そもそもこの世に生まれたからには神秘的な力を持った女性を悪の手から守り戦うのは使命ですからね。あなたこそ僕に打ち明けてくれてありがとうございます。
I'd never expected to be thanked like this. I was the one bewildered instead. Bewildered instead.
でも僕なんかじゃ頼りないかもしれませんね。
そんなことありません。ありがとうございます。
そうですか。ならよかったです。
Yeah, Kamu is cool. I mean, everybody's cool except for Hamiel. And, you know, I have a feeling that if we chose Hamiel, I mean, we'd learn quite a bit about him. His emotions enveloped me, a swirl of relief and pride. However, lurking in his thoughts any longer would be rude. I released his hand, and Camus finally realized his emotions had been broadcasting without a filter. With a gasp, he looked at his own hands before turning bright red all the way up to his ears.
今考えてたこと見えちゃいましたか？
はい、ごめんなさい。
大丈夫です。変なことは考えてなかったですよね。
変なこと？
愛の地球戦隊のコスチュームとか。
That's what he's worried about.
いえ、伝わってくるのは感情とか強く思い描いた過去の記憶とかだけなので、それは特に見えませんでした。
よかった。
Camus placed his hand against his chest. He was uncomfortable that I peered into his mind. Just glad he hadn't actually. He wasn't uncomfortable that I peered into his mind. Just glad he hadn't accidentally shown me specific thoughts. A normal person in his shoes would be frightened or repulsed after that revelation. As a child, I had accidentally voiced the emotions of people I touched, earning creeped-out gazes more than once. I should have learned that my powers was freakishly I should have learned my power was freakish back then. But when I looked at Camus, I couldn't stop myself from wanting to think otherwise.
しかし、なるほどなるほど。彼らはあなたの神がかり的な力を狙って襲ってきていたわけですね。
Yeah, Camus is into like shonen. Thankfully, he's not into hentai.
となると、やはり敵に渡すわけにはいきません。こういう時に敵勢力に負けると死亡フラグが立ちますから。
Death flag? I had trouble figuring out exactly what Camus wanted to convey, but the gist seemed to be that he felt obliged to protect me, like a manga hero. But the people against us weren't that innocuous. Rebecca had said they were affiliated with the mafia or politicians. They even had a helicopter. Just like I thought, there was only one path to choose. As I listened to Camus give a passionate speech, I quietly hardened my resolve. The next morning greeted us with beautiful weather. After taking refuge in the cave for the entire night, the two of us decided to return to the lodge to check on the situation and retrieve our belongings. We're going back there? Wouldn't they leave somebody there? France, Colmar, July 25th, 2028, 7:44, Tuesday, outside lodge. Oh, Sally's here? What? When we cautiously snuck up near the lodge, we discovered that everyone else had gathered here too. Well, why is everybody back here? That makes no sense. I didn't spot any of the assailants from last night in the area. With a sigh of relief, I rushed over to the others.
よかったです。皆さんも無事で。
いやー、すごい雨でしたね。
I mean, I am curious what the others, what situation, or what we would learn from the others too. But we'll just stick with Camus. That was like a cool little sequence.
それより腹減った。なんか食べ物残ってないの？
We chatted and shared information about last night, such as the discovery of the ruin-like cave and how the pursuers had withdrawn due to the storm. Not once during the conversation did anyone blame me. They had every right to say it was my fault we were attacked again, but didn't even bring it up. If anything, they were just concerned about me, asking if I was okay. Just as I thought, they weren't one-dimensional criminals. They were my friends. Looking at my comrades' faces, I found the will to do what I knew I must. I would accept the plea bargain that Rebecca brought up. Though I felt guilty planning this on my own, I was going to negotiate to help the others get away. All that was left was to bid farewell to my companions.
それでどうする？食料も尽きたし、町に行くだろ？
そうだな。ここから行けそうで大きな町というと、ストラスブールか。
裏を書いてコルマールに戻るというのは？
そりゃ無理だろ。あとは俺らの車が無事ならいいけどな。
昨晩のあの悪天候だ。警察の捜索も進んでいないだろう。今なら見つかる前に回収できるだろうな。
Everyone promptly turned, starting the march back down to where we'd hidden our vehicles. I took a breath and called out to them.
その前に私皆さんに話さなきゃいけないことがあるんです。
I'm gonna tell them about the plea deal. I disclosed the secret of my power to everyone else. Oh gosh, I wouldn't really have done that. I explained that I could read emotions to a certain extent through touch, and that someone was likely after me because of this power. Everyone besides the one whom I told last night was surprised, but none of them held me in disdain or were frightened.
なるほど。奴らが君を狙う理由が分かったのは一歩前進というところだな。
ま、そんな力があるなら悪用したい奴もいるだろうよ。お前にとっちゃ迷惑な話だろうがな。
やっぱお姉ちゃんはどこか違うと思ったんだ。うん、やっぱりサリーの思った通りだよ。
っていうか、その力って姉ちゃんのものじゃん。それをまるで自分のもののように奪いに来るって、あいつらマジでムカつかね。
よく話してくれたな。だが、お前が気にする必要はねえ。
Their reactions made this seem ordinary. They listened to my story earnestly and accepted my power as if it was a normal thing to do. And they confirmed that they still welcomed me with open arms.
どこかに私のグローブは落ちてませんか？やっぱりあれをつけてないと間違って皆さんの心を見てしまいそうですから。
I needed to respect everyone's trust and acceptance by sealing away my power. However, as I searched for my gloves,
そんなのつけなくてもいいよ。だって肌が弱いのって嘘だったんでしょ？ごめん。それは嘘なんだけど。
じゃあつける必要ないじゃん。っていうか、どう考えても不便じゃね？
確かにスマホを操作するときにわざわざ外すのって面倒ですし、無理してつける必要はないと思いますね。
oh, they don't understand how much of a bother it is to have the power activate all the time.
でもそれじゃ。
なんだよ。俺たちの心を見ちまうのがそんなに怖いのか？
いえ、逆です。皆さんの方が嫌じゃないんですか？こんな力を持ってる私と一緒にいるなんて。すみません。やっぱりこんな話、急に聞いても信じられませんよね。
バカ。信じてるから、そんなもんつけなくていいって言ってんだよ。わかれよ。
君がその力を忌み嫌っているのは分かった。だが我々は気にしていない。だから無理をして隠す必要もないだろう。
だいたい自分で隠そうとするから、そうやってネガティブになっちゃうんだよ。手袋なんて絶対にやめた方がいいって。
そうそう。コーデ的にもない方が絶対可愛いしね。
その力も含めてあんたなんだろ？だったら俺たちの前では隠すんじゃない。隠した方が失礼だろ。
それに今さら僕たちに隠し事もありませんし、ありのままのあなたでいてもらいたいです。
まあ、そういうことだ。
To my surprise, no one demanded that I wear gloves. Instead of considering it a breach of privacy, they viewed it as just letting me be myself. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine I'd receive such acceptance after revealing my powers. I was so thankful that these were the first people I'd ever confided in.
わかりました。みんな、ありがとう。
It was the best outcome I could ever hope for. Now that they'd accepted me with such grace, I couldn't cause them any more trouble than I already had. It was because they were such wonderful people that my determination burned brighter.
やっぱり私はもう皆さんとは。サリーはお姉ちゃんと一緒にいるからね。
Just as I was about to say I should leave the group, Sally cut me short.
でも私と一緒にいたら皆様で危険な目に。
我々も同じ連中に狙われてはいるんだ。無関係とは言えないだろう。それにこんな山に置いていくわけにはいかない。別れるにしてもひとまず町へ行ってからだ。
てか、別れてどうすんのさ。僕は反対だよ。 一緒にいた方が絶対いいって。
そうですよ。僕たちは仲間ですからね。
そういうことだ。
Ash is like, eh, whatever. What they said, I don't want to talk.
仲良しごっこは街へ行ってからにしないか。俺はスーツをクリーニングに出さなきゃならないんだ。
At Hamiel's reminder, Gib looked at our attire one after another and nodded. None of us were in good shape after the turbulent events of last night.
そうだな。何にせよひとまず山を降りるぞ。話はそれからだ。
はい。
These were most certainly going to be my last moments together with this group. The ache in my chest threatened to sway my resolve. But it was because my heartache was genuine that I had to bid them farewell. France, July 25th, 2028, Strasbourg, 11:14. Red Duomo. Duomo. Oh, okay. Well, I clearly have never pronounced that word.
大事なことは忘れないようにね。
France is not on my bucket list to ever visit. Alright, well, why don't we stop it there? This is meowmurai. You've been watching Despera Drops running on Nintendo Switch 2. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.